Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to my breakout session. So, this morning, we're going to talk about sometimes it's more than just a little bit of stress. So, one of the big things about this is like, what is the difference between stress and trauma? So, ultimately, the simplest way to put it is that stress is just those everyday things that make life a little bit harder to function. Whereas trauma are the things that go a little bit more than that. Those are the things that have this lasting impact, which they ultimately impact how we function in our day to day life. So, an example would be is that being in a car accident is stressful. For some people, they can be in a car accident. It's stressful, but they're fine. They get in a car and they start driving, no issues. Whereas for some people, they might be in a car accident. They then never want to ride on the expressway again, never want to get into another car. That is one of the big differences. It's those things that impact us a little, and then those things that impact us a lot. So, one of the other big pieces about it is how we respond to it. And so, when we have just a little stress, we think about, how hard it is to function. It's a little annoying. The other big piece is that when we have experienced trauma, it impacts how we see ourselves and how we see the world. Now, one of the things we talk about is, and I've heard this a lot from some of the people on the youth council, is that you don't feel heard. And so what ends up happening is that people sometimes don't understand where you're coming from. And when they don't understand where you're coming from, sometimes they misinterpret the things that we do and we say. But when people have experienced trauma, sometimes it impacts how they behave. So there are some people who become angry and they have a hard time paying attention. There are those who don't want to talk to people, and there are those who maybe talk a little too much. It's a big combination of things, and lots of things go into it. But ultimately, it's important for you to know that stress happens to everyone, but we have to figure out how to best to deal with it. So the big thing is, what do I do? Right? You feel like you have lots of stress, you have lots of things going on, and you feel like maybe the people in your life aren't really listening to you and they don't hear you. So one of the big things you can do is ask for help. I know asking for help is not always the easiest thing, especially if you feel like the people you're going to ask for help are not going to assist you, or they're going to judge you for it. But the important thing is to remember that if you ask one person, that you continue to ask other people until you find someone who's willing to help you. And from that, we also have to know what are the things that trigger us. Like, what do I need to know about myself to help figure out how I can manage stress? So for you, you all are experiencing different levels of stress. I did not grow up during the pandemic. You all are. And so now for some of you, you're in school. There are some of you who are doing virtual. You're having to manage AP classes and whether or not you're passing, where you're going to college, extracurriculars, family, you have all these things going on. You have to know what are the things that are impacting your ability to be able to get through your day to day. So for some of us, the trigger could be, having too much work to do. Maybe we're taking too many AP classes, or maybe we are working too many hours.
Let me see. Try to point.
Can anyone hear me? Okay. And so you really want to make sure that you understand what your triggers are. Like for me, one of the big things is I don't like a lot of loud noise. And so if I know that it is something that adds extra stress for me and it makes it hard for me to function, then I try to make sure that I'm in a place that is not too loud, or I have learned to utilize coping skills to be able to manage that stress. That is when it comes to you gotta relax, you gotta release. Sometimes it's as simple as we have a lot on our plate and we don't really know what it is to do, and we have a lot going on. And so part of that is relaxation. With relaxation, you have to learn how to use those great coping skills. And some of us have some ones that we already do already. Like, for instance, listening to music. Listening to music is a great way to relax. It's a great way to let things go. And it's a great way for you to just be able to move forward. The other piece to that is that for you all to be the support that you need. I've heard lots of conversations over the past week about not knowing what adult you can go to because maybe the adults in your life are not the most supportive. And I hear lots of people saying that they talk to their friends. For a lot of you, that's the big thing. If your friend is going to be a support, then be a support to your friend. If you want to be the person that is willing to listen to someone, then be that person, but also remember that it took a lot for them to ask. The big key to that is to listen and to also make sure that unless someone is unsafe, that we manage to be able to not share those things with others. Okay. So, despite popular belief, sometimes your parents can be supports. And the best way to make that happen is to actually give them an opportunity to be helpful to you. Reach out to your parents, ask them to talk, have very candid conversations. And, they may not always understand, but you also have to be able to recognize and say, I know I need help. So these are the ways that I really need for you to be able to help me. If they're not a good option, keep asking. It's one of the things I tell people all the time. As a therapist, I know that it's the hardest thing in the world to ask for help. But if you ask someone and they can't help you, then you should keep asking. It's the same thing that I tell my patients who have maybe been abused and they feel like people are not listening to them. You keep telling someone what is going on with you until someone listens and they are willing to be a help. But you all have other resources available to you. You have guidance counselors. Yes, your guidance counselors can do more than just give you your class schedule. Reach out to them, ask them questions, ask them what are your options. They can help with class schedules. They can help with college recommendation letters. They can help figure out where you want to go to college if you want to go to college. But they also can help you figure out how to navigate some of these big stressful things that you all are going through. Same goes for your teachers. I know that there were some teachers that I was closer to than other, whether it was a coach from the football team who also happened to be a teacher, or my chemistry teacher, someone who I felt connected to, who I felt was willing to listen. Reaching out to them is a really big part of that, and giving them an opportunity to be of assistance to you. Still saying it's very scary, but if you don't want to talk to your guidance counselor, you don't want to talk to your parents, you don't talk to your teachers, well, then maybe even just being able to talk to your regular doctor. When you go in for a checkup, you can tell them that you think maybe you need a therapist or you need someone to talk to. They are an option for you as well. Give them that opportunity to be able to help you. And for some of you, you may already be seeing a therapist. If you've had one in the past, you can always reach back out. Or if you want to work with your family to try to find a therapist, that's an option too. It is the great thing about having a therapist is it's someone who doesn't know you, who's not personally invested in your life. They're not the ones who are grading your papers. They're not the ones who you're going to see every day. They're not the ones who are raising you or giving you consequences for poor choices. Your therapist is someone who can help you without being biased or having a personal opinion about what your life is going to look like. I'm one of those people. Okay, so these are a list of just basic skills. So, by show of hands, how many of you all love listening to music? Okay, so that's pretty much everyone, right? So, it's a couple people learned how to use the raise your hand feature on Zoom. So, if you love listening to music, great. This is a great opportunity for you to have a skill that works for you. Now, it takes listening to music to a different level. So when you listen to music, you just put your pods in and you kind of keep going, right? It's just music in the background. Well, lyrical meditation is that, but then what you're also doing is you're focusing in only on the words and you're blocking out everything else around you. So you're taking the opportunity, everybody has that one song that no matter what, they know the words to, right? And so with lyrical meditation, you're hearing it in your head. So whether it means that you're in class or you're at work or you're riding in the car, you have the opportunity to kind of replay that song in your head. All you do is take a couple slow, deep breaths, close your eyes, and listen to one of your favorite songs in the background. Now, for me, one of the things I have to be mindful of is that when I am listening to music or doing lyrical meditation, I have a tendency to go full on concert girl. It's full on rock body movement, right? Most of us do this. Well, please remember that when we're in public and there's no music, people start to wonder. So know where you are if you're going to listen to music or have your lyrical meditation going on. Take those slow deep breaths, sing a song in your head, focus in on it. It can take 10 seconds, it can take 2 minutes, is what you need to calm down and take a step back. Now, is this going to make your stress go away? No, but it is going to help you be able to cope better with the stress. The reality is that life is not stress free. And so we just have to learn how to manage the stress. Now, the next one is sports. So now we're in a bit of a unique situation right now. Some people are back to playing sports, some people are not. Some people are unwilling to go into and play sports. But one of the things that you really need to be able to think about is it something that I'm willing to do or something I want to do? And if it is, getting into sports is great. One, typically sports gives us an opportunity to kind of escape from our normal life, but it also gives us something healthy and a way to get a lot of energy out. Energy release is a great way to be able to manage and cope with stress. Now, it's not for everyone. I know people who faithfully get up every morning at 4 o'clock and they go running. Yay them. Miss Kim's not running anywhere unless someone's chasing her. So that's not my thing. But there are people who love it, and that's great. There are the people who love to work out, lift weights. This is a great way to be able to do that and manage your stress. Now, another coping skill that is really good is, deep breathing. So deep breathing sounds like it should be really easy, right? You would think. We breathe every day. It's a natural mechanism. But some of us, when we are trying to calm down, we don't do it the correct way. So when we're upset and say, when you've been crying really hard and you're trying to catch your breath and it like deep breathing looks like over and over again. Well, that's not helping because you're still upset and you can't seem to catch your breath. You have to actually stop, slow down, plant your feet solid on the ground and breathe in through your nose. Slow out our mouth. So if you breathe in for 5, out for 5, and you do your counts, and you do this until you get to a place where you're not as upset. Now, the big thing about coping skills is this. Not every coping skill works for everything or everybody. So if I am upset and I am angry, lyrical meditation is not my thing. It just annoys me more. You know how some things, like when you're already mad, you add like noise on top of it, it just makes it even worse, and now you're lashing out at everybody. This goes back to what I was saying about knowing your triggers. I know this about myself. You all know these things about yourself. So you have to pick what's going to work for you in that moment. For me, when I'm really, really upset, positive visualization is my big thing. How many people have a favorite place in the world that's not home or just like someplace they would love to go to? So for me, my place of all places is someplace sunny on a beach with the wind blowing, right? Who doesn't like a little fun in the sun, a little escape from normal life? So for me, when I'm really upset, I have to close my eyes and I have to think of my favorite place to go. I just need a couple seconds to disconnect and to reconnect with who I am as a person. Now, when I'm doing this positive visualization, one of the things I encourage you to do is also have these positive things that you remind yourself. So you know how sometimes you get so frustrated and overwhelmed that you just don't quite know what to do? I constantly tell myself that I'm fine and I can make a good choice. So I remind myself of things I already know about myself that I struggle with when I'm upset. And so I take a second, I deep breathe, I focus in on it, I close my eyes, and then I get back and then I say, okay, now I got to put my big girl pants on and I got to keep on moving because we all know our stress doesn't stop life from moving on, right? We're stressed out, but we still have the AP exam. We're stressed out, but we still have obligations at home. These are the things that we really learn to be able to do. If we know that we're still struggling with our coping skills and we're struggling with being able to manage our emotions, this kind of goes back to us asking for help. knowing at the point in which you can't help yourself and you need someone to be able to help you. Now, I have some other things that I would be able to tell you. I wanted to make sure that I provided you all a couple seconds or a couple minutes to ask any questions that you may have. So that if you do, please feel free to either unmute yourself, put it in the chat so that I can get an opportunity to be able to answer any questions that you may have. No questions? Okay, so this is a great question. Have you ever felt the same way others do when they tell you how they feel? It's not quite feeling like they do, but I have an emotional response. Typically, it means that I am empathizing with where they're coming from. It means I understand their emotions and why they feel the way they do. And so I really work to make sure that I can communicate that to someone. And so I say, you know, I appreciate you sharing with me, and I understand where you're coming from. Another question I have: do you have any recommended ways to recognize your triggers? So I actually do for that. So one of the big things I say, I call it, you know, thinking about what I've been through. And so not in a way where I'm focusing on it, but let's say if I am extremely upset and I've gotten mad about a situation, I take an opportunity when I'm removed from it to kind of think back what happened. So an example that I hear a lot is that I got really upset because I felt like they weren't hearing me, and no matter what I said, they wanted to disagree with me. So I've asked, you know, patients to go back and think about those situations. And so a lot of times, once you go back and you go through and you walk through the conversation in your head, you can figure out the point in which you got the most angry. And then that way, you know, this is a thing for you. Another way is that if you know that you're around certain people, places, or things, and you have a heightened emotional response, then that means that is a trigger for you. Okay, anxiety is a very common thing and lots of people experience it. So typically people who struggle with having anxiety, like when they're having to, I guess, do things or feel put on the spot, one of the best things I can tell you to do is to pre-plan. So if like the example you gave is that you get super anxious when you have to order. So if you know where you're going for food, look at it beforehand so that you're relieving all the stress and pressure off, especially if you're with a group and you don't want people to feel like they're waiting on you. If you look at it beforehand, then you're preparing for that instance. So ultimately, when you experience anxiety, you have to be able to know what types of things trigger that anxiety. And so if like for you, you know, it's ordering, then you build a plan around being able to address that trigger. How would someone receive a formal diagnosis for something if they don't have access to primary care providers? So in our community, there are lots of agencies that provide low cost to no cost services. And so one of those things is being able to reach out in regards to resources. One of the things you can always do is like look up on the if you like do basic Google search, but in regards to low cost or not having access, what you want to do is you want to do a Google search for free services. So there's lots of places, typically church health centers. Those are a great place to start because typically the church health center has a low cost. And if they don't, then they can typically refer you to someone. The thing is that everyone has a different need. So like I could say, like for instance, at one point, you know, if you have experienced abuse, domestic violence, going to Kindred Place, they offer reduced or free services based off what type of experiences that you've had. You also, if you have the ability to, and you have health insurance, calling your health insurance lets you know who is someone who's a covered provider for you. And there's different types of therapy that you can engage in. For some people, it's just they need to see someone every once in a while. And for some people, things get to the point where they have to go to a hospital. And so it just kind of depends on what's going on with you. In regards to getting a formal diagnosis, you would have to be able to see a provider, whether that's a licensed therapist or a doctor, in order to be able to receive a diagnosis. Let's see. What about when you walk when you walk past a group of guys? I get so tense and out of breath. That's a real thing. Welcome to adolescence, and guess what? As an adult, it becomes adolescence on steroids. What I would say is prepare yourself for it. And so it's taking those slow, deep breaths, and as you smoothly just walk on by. Being anxious around groups of people it's a very common thing. It's also important to point out that there are some people who are nervous for different reasons. An example would be is that I worked with a client in the past who was nervous around groups of girls because she had been attacked by a group of girls. Once again, it kind of depends on what your triggers are, but the best way is to be able to take slow, deep breaths, because there are some things that you're just not going to be able to avoid in life. And let's just be real, walking by a group of boys at school is a reality. Any other questions? I'm gonna look back up to make sure I didn't miss anyone's questions. So another thing I would say is also, always feel free to reach out to when I say reach out to your school guidance counselor, even if they are not the person who's your favorite person in the world or not the person you want to be able to talk to, they can also help you. I know that Shelby County Schools has a mental health group that you all have the ability to work with. And so that's always also an option if you go to a Shelby County school. All right. Well, one of the things I want to say to you all is this: I don't think that you all hear it enough, is that it is hard being a teenager. It is hard feeling like people don't understand, they don't listen to you. But I want you to be encouraged, and I encourage you to reach out and ask for help. You all have a lot to offer, and you've had some life experiences that even your parents will honestly say even that they have not experienced, because being a teenager during the pandemic is not the same as being an adult during the pandemic. You all have missed out on a lot of socialization and spending time with friends and families. And so I commend you from the work that you've done so far, and I encourage you to be encouraged and to remember to ask for help if you need it. Thank you guys for coming to my breakout. I think we still have a couple more minutes. If you think of any questions in the meantime, I will be more than happy to answer them for you. Was there a question? So while we wait, just a little background music for you guys. If you have any other questions, just let me know. But we will be wrapping up and going back to the main session in 3 minutes.